Hello to all of you in this class that we're having this year in the biological basis of behavior. Oftentimes now we refer to it as behavioral neuroscience. I'm really looking forward to teaching this class as I have other classes here at Chula University. I've always enjoyed it a great deal, and I'm looking forward to this class and having you learn more than you presently do know about this fascinating area of psychology. So in this video lecture, what I want to do is to spend a little bit of time talking about my expectations, expectations for you in this class, just what you can expect. You'll all be getting a copy of the syllabus, which will be posted on Blackboard, but for sure there's some things that I want to emphasize in this particular lecture and make sure that you're ready to go for a class which is compacted into a few weeks. So let's proceed along with some of this important information. Some important points clearly that I want to make certainly concerns the fact that we're in really difficult times right now, and I think that the COVID pandemic has really had an impact upon all of us, and we're all trying to do the best that we can. I'm trying to do the best that I can. You're trying to do the best that you can. I think that with that in mind, we're going to proceed, I think, in a very favorable way to make sure that you have a good experience in this class, and that we get the basics of this field of behavioral neuroscience or biological psychology. Make sure that you get the fundamentals of this. When we take a look at this class, it is a synchronous remote class, and I think the best way to think of this is in terms of what is now popularly called the flipped classroom. It's just like a face-to-face class. You need to be present at the scheduled time for our discussions, for our quizzes, for our exams. But my expectation is that that you will get the most out of this course by putting the necessary work into it. And that means being there for our scheduled Zoom discussions and being on time for our quizzes and our exams. Make sure, of course, that you have a good, stable internet connection. That is really critically important. If you're trying to do this using a cell phone, for example, it's just not going to work, especially when it comes time to taking exams and quizzes. It just won't work. So you really have to have a good, stable internet connection. Make sure that you're using a good browser. Again, I don't encourage you to use Safari on as your browser. Again, that's the Mac browser. Simply really doesn't work all that well for distance classes, so I would make that recommendation to you. In some ways, this class is going to require even more work on your part than a regular face-to-face class. You're going to be doing a lot outside of class. So please, make sure that you have that in mind. A lot is going to be expected of you over those over that 5-week period of time. And again, make no mistake about it, this is not going to be easy for you. But if you work hard and if you stay up with the material, stay on schedule, then I think that you can have, a really good experience with this class. And again, I've taught this. Last year I taught it remotely as well. I prefer to be there face to face, but that's just not in the cards for this class at this particular point in time. So an important requirement for this class, obviously, is that you've already taken Psychology 101, and I know that all of you have taken that class. I doubt if there's anyone here that's taking Psychology 101 and this class simultaneously, but that's simply something that won't work, because I'm going to be talking about some of the principles of psychology that you should have learned in Psychology 101 that will be the basis for some of the things that we're going to be talking about, this advanced work that we're going to be talking about. Again, I've been teaching this now for a number of years. I really love teaching it. I'm on the faculty at the State University of New York at Albany in the United States, where I've been a professor of psychology and neuroscience now for many years. And in 2006, as a result of what's called the Fulbright Exchange Program, I came to Chula Longhorn to teach a class in behavioral neuroscience, and this was my first class that you see here. And this, in 2019, was my most recent face-to-face class. Unfortunately, I don't have a picture of the 2020 class because we never gathered as one, except on Zoom. But I have very fond memories. I've been teaching in this class since its inception, which goes back, I think, to 2010, I believe. One thing that I would very much like to take note of is if you take a look at this slide that you see right here, this is one of my students from that very first class. His name is Nan Port Patanagal, and there he is receiving his doctoral degree from Northwestern University, which he received, I think it was 5 years ago. He went on to do postdoctoral work at National University in Singapore and at the National Institute of Health in Washington in the USA. He's currently an assistant professor of behavioral neuroscience in New Zealand at a very distinguished university, University of Otago, and I'm very proud of him. And there are other students that I've had that are continuing their graduate work as well. But this is simply to point out that the program, the JIP program, is one that can prepare you for very rigorous graduate work later on. And this is proof of it right here. He's already making wonderful contributions in this field, and I expect him to continue with that in the future. We're really just going to be scratching the surface. I like to think of this course. If you take a look at the videos, the video lectures, as well as curated videos that I have for you, which you will see in the syllabus on Blackboard, it's about 42 hours of your time. Again, that's about 2 days we'll be spending on the topic of behavioral neuroscience. So what does that mean? That means that there's a lot that you need to do to prepare for classes, a lot that you need to do in order to make sure that you're coming into those Zoom classes having read the material, having taken a look at the videos, and taken notes, and done your reading, and your reading on time and conscientiously. So when I tell students they need to follow what we call the 1 to 3 rule uh, for every 1 hour of our distance class, uh, meaning lectures and videos. You should be spending 3 hours outside of class studying. So again, there's a lot that you need to be doing over the course of a week in this very condensed course, again, over a 5-week period of time. One thing that I tell students to do is to get what I call a study buddy. You all know each other pretty well in this class. You've been taking classes together now for what, a year. Make sure you stay in contact with people, especially under these conditions where you're not meeting face to face. Make sure that you're, if you have problems, that you're contacting these classmates. Make sure that, for example, if there are things that you don't understand, certainly I'm willing to help out, but you might want to contact your study buddy along the way, and that might be very helpful for you to do that. So what do you need for this course? Well, here's the good news. The good news, you don't have to buy any books. So that's off your plate. Posted on Blackboard will be the 10th edition of the book that I use by Calit. It's called Biological Psychology. There will be a PDF that's on Blackboard. Also required is the 7th edition of a book that I wrote, How the Science of Psychology Gets Done. That too will be on Blackboard. So again, that's all you really need. And again, let me re-emphasize that you need a good, reliable, high-speed internet connection. And again, don't think that you can do all of this by way of a cell phone. You can't. You really need, at the very least, a good laptop in order to have success in this class. So how do I go about determining grades? Well, there'll be more about this in the syllabus, but basically, here's how it works. There's a total of 4 exams. Each exam consists of 60 multiple choice and true-false questions, 5 points per question. So each exam is worth 300 points. And what I do is I drop your lowest exam. And again, I do this because sometimes students get off to a poor start before they become more familiar with how I go about testing. In addition to that, there's going to be 15 quizzes during the course. Each quiz is worth 20 points. So again, there's another 300 points in the class. So it's possible really to accumulate a total of 1,200 points in the class. And this is what the distribution has looked like in the past. Again, if you take a look at all the behavioral neuroscience classes that I've taught at Chula, 73% of students receive A's, 18% receive B pluses, 2% receive a B, 2% C plus, 3% C's, and I've had just 2% have received D's in the past. So that's what the distribution looks like. And again, I don't know what this class will look like, but this is, what things have looked like in the past. Here's something that is just very important, and again, that I need to re-emphasize with you. Your participation in our Zoom discussions is really important. You really need to prepare very diligently for each one of those Zoom discussion sessions. Your grade is really going to depend, obviously upon the exam and quiz performance, but here's what I do. I like to reward individuals who are really strong participants in our Zoom discussions. So one of the things that I do come the end of the course is if I have borderline kinds of situations, in terms of a person receiving, potentially a student receiving a higher grade. The Zoom discussion performance is going to be used as a criteria for boosting your final grade. And that's something that I've been doing for a long time. So it really is incumbent upon you to do the necessary preparation that you need to do prior to each one of our Zoom classes. And again, for those students who are doing this, you will, without question, do better in the course, and you will also put yourself in line for having your grade boosted if you're in that borderline kind of situation where maybe you haven't actually achieved, let's say, an A in the class. It's more like a B plus. Well, your performance in our Zoom discussions, your participation may put you into that A category. So use your time efficiently. Obviously in our world today, there's a lot of distractions. Here's a few of them. And these are things that can really gobble up your time. I don't use any of these things. I don't use Facebook. I don't use Twitter. I don't use Instagram. I don't use Snapchat. I don't use any of these social media outlets, platforms. It takes up too much time. And it distracts me really from what I am doing or should be doing. There have been many really good studies that have been done that show that overuse of social media is definitely related to students getting lower grades. It's related to poor health, and it's also leads to symptoms of potential mental health problems like anxiety and depression, for example. So I'm not making this up. This is actually work that has been done in the field of behavioral neuroscience, which has documented this. So please do use your time efficiently. So what is my job as a professor? I think that it's important for me to lay that out for you. I want to lead you to this theoretical fountain of knowledge. I want to expose you to some new ideas about how we conceptualize behavior and what our behavior is a product of in terms of underlying biology. And some of you are going to drink from that fountain of knowledge, and quite frankly, some of you aren't. I accept that. But it's very much not a situation where I'm laying out information for you and I'm pitching it to you and you're catching it. That's really not what this is about. It's not like the filling of a pail where I'm filling up this pail with all these facts about the field of behavioral neuroscience. Instead, what it is, it's the lighting of a fire. And I believe, some of you are going to be really turned on by the things that you read about in the lectures and things we discuss in class. And, your fire is going to be lit in terms of understanding behavioral neuroscience, and others of you are not going to be as interested in the field and in this discipline. But really, I really feel as though my job is about lighting fires. So that's how I conceptualize, my job as a professor teaching you this class at Chula Longhorn. So let's try to understand the difference between high school and higher education. We're not your teachers. That's something that's in the lower grades. That's in your high school experience, your middle school experience, your elementary school, what we would call in the United States your elementary school experience. Instead, we are your professors. Teachers in high schools are really paid and they're evaluated on how well they prepare you to take tests. Professors in universities are not paid to make you learn. That's your job. our pay is not contingent upon whether or not you learn. Okay, so that distinction really needs to be made at the outset. So the biggest difference between professors and their students, students see the university as a place to get a credential. Professors see the university in a very different way. They see it as an opportunity to enrich your life, to make your world more diverse in terms of your knowledge, and to make you stronger in terms of being able to think and think critically. That's really the biggest difference between professors and their students. Again, understanding this difference means that the job of a university professor is not to make you learn. That's really your job. In our classes, there's going to be no test preparation at all. Our Zoom classes really are going to be discussions about, key material that you've been reading about in your textbook, and material that's represented in these video lectures. So I think there's a total of 48 video lectures that I've created for this class that you will be viewing over the course of the semester. Some are a little bit longer than others, but generally they're in the category of about 20 to 30 minute lectures. So more than anything, what you really need to do is to develop your critical listening skills. That's when you're watching these lectures, when you're taking a look at those archive videos, when you're participating in Zoom discussions. It's all about developing critical thinking skills. So that's something that we emphasize in this class. Establishing those critical thinking skills, you got to get rid of those distractions that we talked about earlier. This is not passive absorption. It's not like watching television. It is critical listening that you really need to be developing. And again, ridding yourselves of these distractions is really important. This is one of my favorite cartoons that you see here. Here you have this Peanuts classic. Lucy says, "So what do you think?" And Linus says, "What difference does it make? You never listen anyway." And then Lucy says, I was just making conversation." And Linus says, "When you make conversation, you have to listen too." And Lucy says, "You do?" That's one of the critical problems that we have now in this day and age. People are not good listeners. They want to talk, but they don't want to listen. And indeed, you have to be a good listener when you're watching these video lectures, when you're engaging in Zoom discussions, when you're listening to me or you're listening to your classmates. So critical listening means, evaluating what is being said, seeking unifying themes. Critical listening questions and evaluates what is being said and seeks unifying themes. So again, that's something that I try to emphasize in my classes. And again, I think that you will have success to the extent that you do this. So you'll do well in this class if you choose to be a serious student. What does it mean to be a serious student? It means keeping up with the text, keeping up with the videotape lectures, keeping up with the discussion questions, what I call thought questions that we'll be talking about in each one of our classes, taking a look at those archive videos. And again, prior to our Zoom discussions, again, this is something that you need to be doing if you want to be a serious student. and taking good notes on what you view online, and making sure that you review those things prior to our Zoom discussions. So you need to be devoting significant time each day to these activities. You cannot do well in this class if you cram constantly in a mode of cramming over a short period of time before test days. It's just not going to work, and you're not going to do well in the class. So please do keep up with the material. Make the choice to be a serious student. So, I want to just show you a sequence of slides. Albert Einstein, the very famous scientist, had a fear. And I think these slides really represent what his fear was. This is what a day at the beach looks like now, in this day and age of 2021. People are obsessed, as you can see, with their cell phones. This is what cheering your team looks like at a sporting event. Here you can see so many people using their cell phones and looking at their cell phones. Again, here's a good example. And not really watching what's going on in the sporting event. Instead, they're looking at their phones. This is what having dinner out with your friends looks like. Again, here you see these four individuals that are friends. And what are they doing? They're using their cell phones. They're not interacting socially with one another. Instead, they're using their cell phones. This is what being out on a date looks like. Again, these two individuals not really interacting with one another, instead obsessed with their cell phones. This is what having a conversation with your best friend looks like. It's not what you would expect. Instead, sometimes it's communicating by way of a cell phone. And here is what a visit to a museum looks like. Again, these are individuals that are at the museum. Here you can see they're sitting on a bench, and they're using their cell phones. And this is what enjoying the sights on a car ride looks like. These are individuals that are all using their cell phones in the car. They're really not looking at what's going on around them at all. So Albert Einstein had a fear. And this is a quote from Einstein. He says, "I fear the day that technology will surpass our human interaction. The world will have a generation of idiots." I think that day is here. I really do. We're so obsessed with technology now, and it's really, I think, impairing what is happening in terms of these very important things that should be going on in terms of human exchanges. So that's why I say, please, watch yourself in terms of these distractions, because they can in fact be very harmful to you in terms of the progress that you're making in terms of your education. In this case, higher education. So the single most important thing you can do to ensure success in this class, read the syllabus, read it carefully, understand exactly what the requirements are. This is so important that you do this. I have so many questions over the course of the semester from students where if they had just read the syllabus and read it carefully, they wouldn't be wasting their time and my time with those questions. So again, please do this. So the syllabus really is a contract. It's a contract between me as a professor and you as students. Everything is clearly spelled out in the syllabus. You know exactly what you do in order to do well in this class. And I believe many of you will do very, very good in this class because you take this recommendation seriously. There's no extra credit in this class, or what I call do-overs. That's something that you see in, middle school, high school culture. It's really not a part of higher education. Please don't try to negotiate a grade with me and say, well, I'll do some extra work in order to improve my grade. It doesn't work like that. Again, you know now from the outset what you need to do in order to do well in this class. And again, I'm confident that you will. The students that I've had in the past at Chula, for the most part, have been terrific. So understand what this word means, what this acronym means, ITS. What it means is the answer to your question is in the syllabus. Again, please read the syllabus over 3 or 4 times. Make sure you read it in its entirety. Make sure that you understand exactly what the expectations are. So once again, I'm really looking forward to having you in this class. I think that we'll have some fun. We'll have some fun, I think, learning about this discipline. I wish that I was there in Bangkok with you. I've always enjoyed so much of that whole experience. And I've come to love your country, and through you as students, you really helped me a great deal in order to understand Thai culture, for example. And so I will miss that, but we're going to try to do the best that we can by way of this remote class. So again, I look forward to it, and I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better, and you getting to know me a little bit better. So there will be time for that, and hopefully when I'm there in the future, we'll be able to have some face-to-face meetings. But that is not something we can do now. Your health and your safety are critical, and hopefully the rollout for the vaccine is going to come much quicker, and Thailand and certainly the higher education system will be on a very quick rebound. So that's it for this first lecture, and again, there will be a lot coming your way by way of postings on the Blackboard website for this class.